He didn't just leave me. He replaced me. Same house, same kitchen, same bed, different woman. And he did it while I was still paying half the mortgage. My name is Serena. And if you've ever loved someone so completely that you stop seeing yourself in the mirror, stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you is not a sad story. It is a story about a woman who lost everything and built something so much bigger that the man who left her now has to drive past it every single day on his way to work. We met at 23. He was charming in the way that only dangerous men are charming, confident, magnetic, the kind of man who makes you feel like the only person in the room. Daniel. I should have known from the beginning. He had a way of making everything feel like it was his idea, his success, his future. And slowly, quietly, without me even noticing, I started shrinking myself to fit inside the space he left for me. I put my MBA on hold so he could finish his. I turned down a job offer in New York because he didn't want to move. I freelanced from home, building websites for small businesses, making just enough to contribute to our life while he climbed his corporate ladder rung by rung. Every promotion he got, I celebrated like it was mine. Every raise, every bonus, every business trip, I supported all of it. I cooked the dinners. I kept the house. I ironed his shirts on Sunday nights and sent him off every Monday morning like I was sending a soldier to war. For 7 years I did this. 7 years of quietly making myself smaller so he could appear larger. And not once did he say thank you. Not once did he look across the dinner table and say, I see what you do. I see who you are. I see you. The night I found out, it wasn't dramatic. There was no lipstick on a collar, no late-night phone call, no suspicious text. It was a receipt. A dinner reservation at a restaurant I had been asking him to take me to for 2 years. Table for 2. A Tuesday night. He had told me he was working late. I sat in our kitchen with that receipt in my hand for 45 minutes before I heard his key in the door. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just placed the receipt on the counter in front of him and watched his face. He looked at it. Then he looked at me. And then he said something I will never forget for the rest of my life. Serena, I think we both know this hasn't been working for a long time. Like it was mutual. Like I had been slowly falling out of love with him too. Like I was a business partner he was dissolving a contract with rather than a wife he had just betrayed. I asked him how long. He said 6 months. I asked him if he loved her. He was quiet for too long. That silence was its own answer. I picked up my keys, my laptop, and one bag of clothes. I told him I would be back for the rest. And I walked out of the house I had helped pay for, the house I had cleaned and decorated and filled with plants and candles and all the small beautiful things that make a space feel like a home. And I drove to my best friend's apartment and sat on her couch and did not sleep for 3 days. The divorce was quick because I made it quick. I didn't want the house. I didn't want the furniture. I didn't want a single thing that carried the shape of the life we had built together. My lawyer thought I was being reckless. I told her I was being free. I took my share, signed the papers, and walked away with enough to start over in a quiet, burning clarity that I had never felt before in my entire adult life. I moved into a small apartment on the east side of the city. 2 rooms, 1 window that looked out onto a brick wall. A kitchen the size of a closet. I put my laptop on the kitchen counter and I got to work. All those years of freelancing, all those years of building websites and managing digital platforms for other people's businesses, I had quietly accumulated something I hadn't fully recognized. Skills. Real ones. The kind that don't disappear when a marriage does. I reached out to every client I had ever worked with. I offered expanded services. I hired 1 contractor, then 2, then 5. I stopped doing the work alone and started building a team. I worked 14-hour days for 8 months straight. I missed birthdays. I skipped holidays. I ate dinner at my desk more nights than I can count. But every single morning I woke up in that small apartment with the brick wall view, and I felt something I had not felt in 7 years. Like myself. 14 months after I walked out of that house, my company had its first $1 million month. I sat at that same kitchen counter where I had eaten cereal alone every morning for a year, and I stared at the number on my screen and I cried for the first time since the night I found the receipt. Not from sadness. From something that had no clean name. Relief maybe. Or recognition. The recognition that I had always been capable of this. That I had always had this inside me. I had just been so busy making room for someone else that I had forgotten to make room for myself. Daniel heard about it through mutual friends. I know because those mutual friends told me. They said he had gone quiet when they mentioned my name, that he had asked how I was doing in the careful way people ask about things they feel guilty about. I didn't reach out. I didn't need to. My silence was louder than anything I could have said. He texted me on a Thursday evening 8 months ago. Just checking in, he wrote. Hope you're doing well. Heard things are going great for you. I read it 3 times. Then I put my phone face down and went back to the proposal I was writing for a new client, a venture capital firm that wanted to completely overhaul their digital infrastructure. Contract value for $0.3 million. I had more important things to do than respond to a man who had once told me our life together wasn't working as he stood in the kitchen I had cleaned every week for 7 years. His girlfriend, the woman he had left me for, they broke up 5 months after I filed for divorce. I know because she sent me a message. A long one. She apologized. Said she hadn't known about me at first and that by the time she did she was already too deep in. She said he had done to her what he had done to me. Started another relationship while they were still together. I read her message in the back of a car on my way to a board meeting and I felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction. Compassion. Because she wasn't the villain in my story. She was just another woman who had loved someone who didn't know how to love anything that wasn't a mirror. I wrote back. I told her I didn't blame her. I told her to build something that was only hers. I told her the best thing that ever happened to me was the night I found that receipt because it forced me to finally become the person I had been postponing my whole adult life. She replied with one line. I hope I can do what you did. I told her she already was. My company now employs 38 people. We have offices in 2 cities. Last quarter our revenue crossed $11 million. I own my apartment outright and I am closing on a property next month. A townhouse with a rooftop terrace and a kitchen big enough to actually cook in. I have a team that sends me good morning messages and celebrates wins like they are personal. I have friends who knew me when I was sleeping on a couch with 1 bag of clothes and who still look at me the same way they did then, just with more pride. And Daniel? He still works at the same company. Same position he has held for 4 years. I know because his LinkedIn profile is public and I checked it exactly once 6 months ago just to see. Not out of longing. Out of curiosity. The way you might glance at a road you used to travel just to confirm you no longer need it to get where you are going. He drove past my office building last month. I know because a mutual friend mentioned it. Said Daniel had pointed it out from the passenger seat and gone quiet. Said nothing. Just looked. I imagine him sitting there in that car, looking up at the building with my company name on the directory in the lobby, and I hope genuinely, without cruelty, without performance, I hope it gave him something to think about. Not regret necessarily. Just perspective. The kind that comes too late to change anything but just in time to teach you something about what you had and chose to throw away. Someone asked me recently if I would do it all again. If I would go back and choose differently, choose someone who stayed, choose the safer version of my life. I thought about it for a long moment. Then I said no. Not because the pain wasn't real. It was real. It was the most real thing I had ever felt. But because the pain was also the door. And I walked through it into something I could never have found if I had stayed comfortable, stayed small. Stayed the woman who ironed shirts on Sunday nights and called it love. If you are watching this and someone has left you, whether it was a partner, a friend, a family member, someone you gave everything to and who still decided you weren't enough, I want you to hear this. Their leaving was not a verdict on your value. It was a redirection. It was the universe moving you out of a room that was too small for what you were about to become. You are not what they left. You are what you built after. And the building, I promise you, is the best part of the story. I wake up every morning now in my apartment that I paid for with money that I earned, and I stand at the window that no longer looks out at a brick wall. I had that apartment for 8 months before I moved. And I look out at the city and I feel something that I spent 7 years not feeling. Chosen. Not by someone else. By myself. And it turns out that is the only choice that was ever going to matter. Subscribe if this story found you at the right moment. And leave a comment below. What did you build after someone told you that you weren't enough?